All I have in this world is my balls and my word, and I don't break them for no one. Do you understand?
Rightio legends, Chaos Chronicles, and we're back again with another video. And so right here I have a video which documents a feud between Alphonse Gangitano and Chopper Reed. So the video credits go to the Inquirer 2.0. And if you guys haven't already subscribed to myself, jump down there and shoot me a subscription. That'd be absolutely appreciated. I am the Chaos Chronicles. What do? We talk about everything crime, prison in Victoria, Australia, and everything there alike around Australia. So, yeah, if you haven't already subscribed, jump down there, shoot me a subscription, hit that bell icon, and you'll never miss any of my videos again. All right, let's get into it.
My first wife started screaming, and I've turned around, and my mate Simon, he's unconscious, being carried out by the bouncers. One of Alphonse.
So this person who's talking right now is Barry Michaels. So I actually met this guy. He came into Port Phillip prison at one time. And yeah, so this guy was an Australian champ boxer at the time when the time he's talking about. So this is somebody who can put him together and was a well-known Australian champ boxing champion. And yeah, this is talking about his head getting punched in by Alphonse and quite possibly Chopper.
His friends is just kinging him coming off the dance floor, and I've turned around for the first time in an hour or so, and I was just surrounded, by quite a few guys with sort of death in their eyes. And the first thing I thought was I'm probably dead, because I know they carried pistols and whatever. And I turned to Alphonse and I said, "You effing so-and-so, you've set me up." And he just jumped me. And I went, back on a couch or whatever it was. And I never got off it, chair or couch, I can't recall. But they just beat the crap out of me. And Chopper Reed reckons he was there. I didn't recall seeing him. It was all a bit of a blur. If I was...
Good old Chopper Reed, always putting himself in places where he probably wasn't, and was well known for it. Let's admit it. And the chances of him being here, I mean, he could have. Who knows?
Concussed that night. I was probably concussed ever in my career.
Alphonse Gangitano, on the other hand, was well known for being a very, very, very violent man. The media dubbed him the Prince of Lygon Street. And yeah, there was one point in time where he was probably as untouchable as everyone thinks he was.
My nose was smashed right under my left eye. It was smashed right across my face. He reckons they smashed me with one of those glass ashtrays.
To Chopper.
Yeah. And Alphonse actually...
As you know, I made a few videos back about how I had to save my brother's life by clonking someone in the head with one of those glass ashtrays, and let me tell you, it is maximum effect every single time.
He latched onto my right cheek. He tried to bite my cheek off.
I don't condone violence.
And yeah, I had ring holes all over my head. And I remember at one stage, security, because they were still whacking me, and my wife, she'd been carried out by the security. She was outside.
Oh no, his poor wife was there and seen it all. Oh, that's brutal. Poor lady.
And I was left to him. And look, there was talk about a gun that fell out of someone's hand or was kicked under the couch. The security, I remember one of them.
He's probably lucky he didn't end up getting plugged by that gun, to be honest, especially in the time when this happened.
Sitting on me, and I remember him saying, he's had enough, you'll kill him.
Reed was a very violent man. In prison and outside on the streets, he was a menace. He lived...
True story. I've said this many times in multiple videos, and people can say what they want about what I say now, and people can say what they want about Chopper Reed, but the truth is, the absolute fact of the matter is that Chopper Reed inside prison was an absolute fucking dangerous man, and that is a fact. Now, people can say what they want. He might have been what he was outside and done what he done, but the truth is, like a lot of people that say this stuff about him probably wouldn't have said it to his face in prison. Fact.
A life that bordered on the insane and often merged fact with fantasy. Many men dog him and call him a fantasist, but not many of those would have dared challenge him face to face. Chopper used to qualify his use of violence in that he was some kind of vigilante, only attacking and standing over men in the underworld. not normal civilians.
He claimed
I mean, I understand that as well, because that was my claim, and I still claim it to this day, that although I was only ever done for, I am a serious violent offender myself. And so you can only get that title by the judge when you are continually committing violent offences. Yeah.
claims he's never tortured or murdered an innocent person. He says there was only one group he preyed upon.
Scumbags, basically people I didn't like, drug dealers, heroin dealers, people who had...
I get it, like I was just saying, I still stick by it that, I never, ever, ever messed with anyone that wasn't a member of the criminal fraternity.
Earned their living through the sale of heroin, made a lot of money, killed a lot of people. They had no right to the money. I had no money. So bugger.
I mean, look, I don't know what you guys think of Chopper Reed, but the guy was a character, and you've got to admit it. And yeah, it was a mental case.
Them. Why should I stand on the footpath with me in my hand while these...
See those scars on his face there, right? So this day and age, if you see those scars on someone's face, that's generally called a dog scar, right? And so someone can generally only get that scar if they are considered a dog. So if you're ever in prison and you see someone walking around with scars on their face, I'd be asking for paperwork.
Oh, I shouldn't say that, should I? While these people drive past in their Mercedes coupes and wearing $20,000 Rolex watches. And
one of the men that Chopper would accuse of being the orchestrator of huge heroin shipments in the 80s was the Black Prince of Lygon, a very violent man himself and part of criminal royalty in Melbourne with the Carlton crew.
25 to 30% of all the heroin that went through Melbourne from 1980 to 1997 passed through Alphonse's hands.
However, on leaving prison in 1986, Chopper and Alphonse were on good terms and even joined together.
Can you imagine those people today with the meth epidemic where it is now, and the amounts of people that are taking this drug? Like, as you just heard then, he ran the heroin in Melbourne from, the 80s to the 90s. I wonder how these people would go today with the amounts of people that use ice compared to the amount of people that used heroin. Although the heroin was an epidemic, this ice epidemic trumps it big time.
To ruthlessly beat up world champion boxer Barry Michael, who we heard from at the beginning. The reason for the brutal...
Well, there you go. He was a world champion boxer.
Attack was linked to Alphonse looking after the interests of a
Barry
rival
Michaels.
boxer. Alphonse and his crew and Michael Barry and his team had clashed previously in a parking lot brawl prior to this incident.
Alphonse and I, we had a reasonable sort of relationship. I used to get along with him okay. Didn't really have issues with him.
By the way, when I said I met this guy at Port Phillip Prison, he was coming doing a boxing thing in the prison. He wasn't in prison himself. Just thought I'd lay that out on the line.
About, people don't know, but about 10 years before they jumped me in Lazar's, there was a punch on outside Mickey's disco, and it ended up my team against his team, and weapons were fired as well, but it was all hands were shaking, and I actually punched on with one of his friends who king hit me, and I beat the crap out of him, but that's another story.
The reason Alphonse and Chopper fell out dates back to the late 1970s. Chopper was a few years older than Alphonse.
Look at the axe, the hatchet hanging on the wall behind Chopper there. And that is not a bulletproof vest. It actually looks like he's chopped up a friggin' one of those psycho vests that they wear.
Alphonse, and had once given him his first shotgun. Chopper explained the fallout on a documentary.
I got out of jail in 1976. I met him in the Dover Hotel, and I was talking to him about people, and I mentioned Shane Goodfellow's name. And I said, when I see that good fellow, I'm going to belt him, And I didn't know Alphonse was thought Shane Goodfellow was a hero. was a great street fighter, a legendary street fighter, and a good friend of Alphonse's. I'm in the shithouse having a poo. Next thing you know, the door's smashed open, and Alphonse is there with his boys, and they're kicking me in the face. And I've got up, wiped my bum, and I've got up, and I'm throwing punches at Alphonse. And I've kept my eyes closed, and when I've opened my eyes, I'm throwing punches at the bouncers. Alphonse has disappeared. He knew that one day they would come back and bite him on the ass. You can't bash.
I mean, and I guess, you know, it probably would have. It's well known. It is a well-known fact that Chopper Read killed Sammy the Turk and got away with it somehow. You know, he was pretty well known on the streets as well for being pretty ruthless, although he was well known for doing, you know, police stuff.
Someone like me. See, if I want to get revenge on someone, I'll watch and I will wait. Revenge is a dish best eaten cold. I'll eat it freezing cold.
I remember reading the Chopper books when I was younger, and in that Chopper book, he says that, you know, patience is a virtue, and talks about waiting under someone's house for days on end with cans of baked beans and getting his victim that way.
I got hold of some gelignite and handguns, and I started shooting.
So I have met Chopper Read in my life. So I met Chopper Read, it must have been nearly 20 years ago now. I met him through my mate that was a mate at the time. He's unalive now. He's passed away now. Rest in peace. Who was Frankie Waghorn. And yeah, I remember this one time I was at a house in Collingwood, and Chopper was there hiding from his missus. And so he's, at the time, the street in the house what we were at, his missus is driving around, but Chopper's son standing out the sunroof of the car yelling out, "Chopper, come home! Chopper, come home!" It was pretty funny. He was hiding inside because he was scared to get in trouble from his wife.
Another few places that Alphonse was involved with. I went around the gambling club with the gelignite, and he pushed his way out through the toilet window and landed on the roof of a Jag, of a Mercedes, and then hurt his back. Then went up to Mick Gatto and said, Chopper Read's looking for me with this gelignite and wants to blow my head off. I'm not frightened of Chopper Read, but I'm worried about me family.
Alphonse would take his family away on holiday to escape the wrath of Chopper. But once Read was back in jail, Alphonse would be back causing mayhem in Melbourne, which would eventually catch up with him in the form of a bullet. It would not be on the orders of Chopper, but rather those much closer to home. The case is unsolved, but it is widely suspected that one of Jason or Mark Moran pulled the trigger, accompanied by Graham Kinnenberg. Alphonse was just too violent and arrogant, and was upsetting many people. Interestingly, the brutal bashing of Barry Michael provokes more questions than answers. According to Chopper, he was present whilst the attack took place. Was he involved in the attack, or just watching? Had his beef by 1986 between himself and Alphonse ended and hostilities put to one side? Either way, the attack at Lazar's was brutal, and both Chopper and Barry talked about it on a documentary.
He just lunged at me and he grabbed me by the lapels.
I was actually worried then. I was like, oh no, where'd the picture go? Well, there we go. There's Barry Michaels himself and Alphonse Gangitano enjoying a nice glass of red.
My jacket, as he pulled me down the couch with him, got a serious grip on my cheek, and I got my hands up trying to gouge his eyes to get him off me, and immediately they were like a pack of mongrel dogs on top of me.
Alphonse bashed him so badly in the brain. He kicked him, punched him, and hit him so fucking much around the head.
And then another one came in. The next thing I know, I'm being dragged up off the couch, dragged through the crowd with blood spraying everywhere off my face.
They made a mess of Barry Michaels. They completely screwed Barry Michaels' boxing career.
Alphonse has died violently, but violence was always a big part of his life, from his privileged public school days, on the streets, and in prison. One of the first incidents of violence that perhaps sparked his deep-seated hatred of police was a fight at a nightclub in Footscray called Bunny's. According to witness statements, it was a bloodbath with all the bouncers being smashed by Alphonse and his crew. They even drove their...
Jeez, he really was a violent fucker, wasn't he? Like, really, really violent.
...car through the front of the club and whacked the joint. Police arrested Alphonse, and he was allegedly beaten black and blue by the Jacks with Mick Gatto, later saying Alphonse's head resembled an elephant's. It was that swollen. Whilst in prison for the sports bar incident, when 13 patrons were terribly injured after Alphonse went berserk with a pool cue, he was also involved in a number of violent incidents, according to a former prison associate who messaged the channel. In one of those, he bit through another prisoner's nose, nearly taking it off in an argument over gambling. Whilst Alphonse is rightfully included in this series of Australia's deadliest prisoners, he was not in the same league in prison as the notorious Chopper Reid, who was feared and hated in equal measure.
And that's a fact. Like I said before, you know, everyone knew that Chopper Reid was an absolute fucking weapon in prison, and it's just a fact, and you can't deny it.
You two get involved in that gang war?
Well, I just didn't like the faces of the people of the opposition. They when I arrived in B Division, they seemed to have everything under control. They were making all the home brews and getting all the dope in and organising everything and running around the place like kingpins. And so I thought I'd rectify the situation. And we had some homemade axes made up in the engineer's shop, and it was me and a couple of other friends. I made them wear overcoats, and we had axes up our sleeves, and we went around and dealt with the situation.
And that's why they called it the Overcoat Wars, because Chopper's crew used to wear overcoats, and it's a well-known fact that they all used to carry around hatchets and hatchet people.
In August 1976, Mark Reid secured a privileged role as the H Division billet in Pentridge Prison, placing...
So a billet is, so in Victoria, a billet is the same as like in other states, they call them sweepers or whatever. So a billet is somebody who has a job in the unit. You know, you have a washing billet, you have a yard billet, you have a unit billet, you even have some billets that clean the screws desk, like teachers' pets, dropping notes on that.
Him in cell 1, right next to the guard's station. Unlike other inmates, he wasn't subjected to cell searches and had free movement within the division. His duties included cleaning showers and distributing food, always accompanied by an officer.
In a way, my body kind of looks like that. If you haven't seen my videos, I've actually been stabbed 7 times, so I've got quite a few scars on me like that from some kind of bladed implement every time.
Officially, this was to keep an eye on the most dangerous prisoner, but Red exploited his freedom to wage biological warfare on fellow inmates. He later admitted to contaminating prison stew with feces, masking the smell with mustard and curry powder.
And this is something that can definitely be done. This is something that I have done myself and my crew of people. When we were in Scarborough South, the screws told us that the person, every single cell, every single unit, well, most units have a holding cell. So if someone fucks up, they get put in the holding cell before the security comes and takes them to the slot. And so this one time, they didn't have any space in the slot. So they've put a sex offender in our unit in the holding cell, right? So, but that person still eats the same meals, and us prisoners prepare those meals. So I'll tell you exactly what I done before this person tells you what they done. So on this time, so 2 times we done it, and the second time absolutely like gave this person food poisoning so bad. So that's the time I'm talking about now. So it was a stew like this. It was like a stroganoff or something like that that had little square bits of meat in it. So I literally went and grabbed like 4 or 5 bits of meat out. I ran it over every single bit of the toilet. I put it on a fork, put a glove on my arm and put it in and rubbed it on as much on the inside of the toilet. I pulled the drain plug out, and I put it down there and rubbed all that gunk all over it. Like, these things were putrid and full of stuff. This guy got that sick, he actually had to get ambulance to hospital because he had severe food poisoning that bad.
2 or 3 tablespoons were enough to give the whole wing gastro, he claimed in a 2000 interview. He also told a more elaborate version of the story involving a mouldy concoction that supposedly attracted the attention of the National Crime Authority, though no record of such an investigation exists. Reid kept his tactics secret.
Like, this is something that happens in prison a lot, and people need to understand, like, there is chemical warfare, you know. I've done it myself. I literally used to get chicken. You can get steamed chickens from Port Phillip every single night, right? So no one wants to eat the meals that come up yuck, but you can prepare your own meals and get a steamed chicken. Anyway, if you rip that chicken apart, put it inside a milk container and hide it somewhere outside during summer and wait for that stuff to just fester up and it gets juices. And yeah, so I've also done that, put the juice inside someone's milk and gave them pretty severe. They actually got, what's it called? Salmonella from that one.
Believing that a secret shared is a secret lost. He held the billet position until December 1976, when he was dismissed for misconduct, either for smuggling tobacco or, according to some, tampering with food. Word spread about his culinary sabotage, turning even neutral prisoners against him. At Christmas, inmates expected 2 pork sausages each, but when the meal arrived, they were missing. Reid, notorious for food tampering, was the immediate suspect, despite protesting that he had already lost his job.
Now, it is alleged that this sausage incident right here is where the POW prison gang was formed. Now, I don't know if that is fact, but it is widely spoken about inside the Victorian prison system. This thing, what they're talking about right here.
Inmate John Piggy Palmer publicly accused Reid, who responded the next day by knocking him out in the yard. In reality, the sausages may have never existed, a common tactic used by prison management to manipulate inmates. Regardless, the accusation ignited a gang war between Reid and a powerful faction of painters and dockers who controlled prison rackets. Reid dismissed them as 2 Bob gangsters, while they saw him as an outsider and an informer.
A rat, mate. Right. He used to work for the Screws. He'd bash screws behind the door when you come down in the morning, walk alone. Before it was IMU. You walk down and tow the line, go through the yard into your yard, and you'd have to tow the white line that goes up, and then the geezer in the gantry, you go, and I mean, you could put your pal down and do your exercise and do whatever you want. He would be hiding behind the door. And as you come in, he had a wooden mallet that's given to him by the Screws, obviously, and he'd weigh you in.
So that's a breach, do you know what I mean? And this is something that I don't agree with. I don't ever agree with working for the Screws or doing anything for the Screws. As a matter of fact, I had 3 days to go. I'd just done my 9 years straight, and someone smashed one of my young mates who stole Tim Tams from the Screws desk, and he smashed my mate. This was the same guy that was working in the Screws box, which is a putrid job anyway, cleaning up after the Screws. And so, long story short, I was going to take this guy out, but my crew literally done it before I could do it, and a pool cue got smashed into pieces, and this guy got airlifted.
In front of for the Screws. Screw in the gantry, walk up, make it didn't see anything. Oh my days. Yeah. He was protected by the Screws of the rats. Anyway. He's a Aussie, all right.
By 1976, prison brutality had changed. Guards could...
So also, what I will tell you that I know for a fact, so Chopper was well known for having like silver teeth. So those silver teeth were actually stainless steel. So when he was in prison in Tasmania, and this is something that I got told from him himself. So when he was in prison in Tasmania, they wouldn't give him a normal plastic denture because they thought that he would do something with it. So they made him teeth a whole denture. The whole bit that's supposed to be plastic was all stainless steel. So what everyone thought was sterling silver teeth was actually stainless steel.
Could no longer freely be inmates due to media scrutiny and oversight.
And those exact teeth there that are missing are the teeth that got replaced.
Victorian ombudsman. Instead, they used Reid as a weapon against their enemies, possibly supplying him with weapons. Reid himself boasted about his loyalty to the prison governor. The real clash began when members of the rival gang were transferred to H Division after a drunken murder in B Division. Reid ambushed their leader, allegedly with guards' approval, yet faced no punishment, a move that reinforced his reputation as a guard-backed enforcer. By March 1977, as tensions escalated, Reid was removed from H Division for his own safety and assigned to the labour yards. Reed's presence made H Division ungovernable. Inmates taunted guards at night, and violence escalated between Reed's faction.
So some people talk about H Division like it was a protection unit, because they say people like Chopper Reed were hiding in there, but the truth, it never was a protection unit. There may have been people hiding out in there, but the truth of the matter is there was only the baddest of the fucking bad in H Division in Pentridge.
And the opposing gang made up of painters and dockers. Reed later claimed that weapons were stashed all over the division, including tomahawks, shivs, and ice picks. In one infamous...
And you might find it hard to believe, so in this day and age, we figured out a way when I was at Bowen Prison to get weapons back from industries into the yard, right? So this is something that can still be done today. I've made videos, like I've seen actual size, like Raphael size from bloody, Ninja Turtles. I've seen axes. I've seen shanks that are literally longer than my arm. I've seen shanks that are that big. People, I can't, big weapons.
Incident, Reed was given access to Piggy Palmer, who collapsed in terror.
I also done a video, if you guys don't know, there was actually a pistol found at Port Phillip Prison in fairly recent years too. So you've got to understand, Port Phillip Prison didn't have cameras in every single unit until 2018. So before that, it was literally crazy. But they literally have found guns at Port Phillip twice. The first time was found in a block of cheese.
Reed toyed with him.
It was a derringer.
Humiliating him rather than killing him, allegedly threatening to make him take his large manhood in his mouth. Soon, even the friends of Reed's enemies became targets.
His large manhood in his mouth.
He attacked Bobby Barron over a suspected razor theft, simply because he had dock worker connections. The cutting his ears off incident, covered in many videos, to engineer a move will go down in prison folk.
Also, I will add that a lot of people think that Chopper Reed is called Chopper because he chopped off his own ears. He was actually called Chopper from a child. His ears had nothing to do with his name. It's just ironic.
By August 1977, Reed was paroled directly from H Division, an unusual move, as most prisoners transitioned through general population before release. His record noted he'd had a good month leading up to it. Pentridge may have quieted down without him, but Reed time in H Division had cemented his reputation as a brutal, unpredictable force, one both feared and perhaps used by the system. He rightfully is included in Australia's deadliest prisoners.
Rightio, well there you go, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in and watching. Thank you to the Inquirer 2.0, and if you guys have got any more videos you'd like me to do a reaction to or a video on itself, but remember my rule, I'm not going to do a video on anyone that is still alive. So also guys, if you haven't already subscribed, please jump down there and subscribe. Now is the time to subscribe to my channel. We've got big things coming, and I am the Chaos Chronicles. Thanks for watching. That was Alphonse Gangitano and Chopper Reed, two of the probably most well-known names in our whole Victorian prison and crime alone. And so, if you guys have got any other videos you'd like me to do a reaction to or like me to do a video on myself, I will absolutely do that. Chuck it down there in the comment section of this video. Anyway, guys, I've been the Chaos Chronicles. Don't do drugs and crime and you won't end up in prison. Weird.
The Chaos Chronicles, where the darkness thrives.